I am featured on an amazing summit called the Intrabiz Summit alongside Dr. John D. Martini, Sharon Lecter, Evan Carmichael, Rob Moore, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, 30 of the world's leading industry authorities over a 3-day period, November 25th to November 27th. And it's all going to be about how to rise to thrive going into 2021. So looking forward to seeing that. It's free to join. If you want to pre-purchase some of the audio recordings, use the promo code INTROAS10, INTROAS10, and we'll see you on the Intrabiz Summit. Take care. Bye-bye.
This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by productivity authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers Experience Power Up Thursdays episode with myself, Adam Strong. And really looking forward to sharing some great content and some insights with you today, because I've been having some really interesting conversations. In fact, it kind of goes back not even just recently, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about recruiting and retaining what I call A players. All right. So what do I mean by A players? Well, so there are 3 classifications of essentially not just employees, but also people that you would like to bring in on what I call potential candidates. So we have what I call A players, B players, and C players. All right. Now, in terms of classification, what are the big differences between an A player, a B player, and a C player? Well, a C player is someone that is literally going to be just there to just earn their salary. They're going to be there to just pay their bills. They're not really interested in fulfilling their potential. They're not interested in becoming part of the culture as such. They're just there in terms of presence. They're just there, okay? And you tell them what to do, and they just do it, okay? They show very little initiative. They show very little interest. It's all about, this is what my job, and this is what I'm going to do. So it's very also into kind of more what I call the fixed mindset rather than the growth mindset. All right. Now, B players, the difference between a B player and a C player is that a B player, there are certain attributes and skills that they show that, number one, they're interested in becoming more than just themselves. They also have some they have also some other interesting improvements on C players, such as, they're in this development that they want to develop their careers. They want to, but they're in what I call a transition of change. So they don't have a fixed mindset and they don't have a growth mindset. They're somewhere in between the middle. They're kind of a little bit lost. But in terms of performance wise as well, is that a B player, okay, they won't be your highest performing employees. They would be your average employees. They would do okay. All right. Now, A players are a little bit different. And normally the difference between an A player and a C player is huge. So an A player is someone that wants to be part of something much bigger, much huger. They believe in your purpose, your why, your vision, your mission, and things like that. They outperform themselves. They go above and beyond what's expected of them. And they use their initiative more. And, they're a lot harder to come by in terms of A players. Now, if you're in the entrepreneurial world and you take on a lot of what I call so-called contractors, if you can, there's a platform called Upwork or Fiverr, which you may or may not have heard, but you can essentially recruit contractors for doing a particular task. Now, for example, I wanted to recruit, say, a graphic designer. Okay. Now there's thousands of graphic designers out there. Okay. And each one is going to be slightly different. Now, what I tend to do is when it comes to recruiting, especially if I wanted, say, a graphic designer for a particular project, but I didn't want to employ them full time or even part time, is I would just bring in, a subcontractor, for example. And what I would do is I would look at their reviews and their testimonials. That's really important for me. But the other thing is looking at, what is it going to cost me as well? So just because someone is priced really, really more than kind of the average as such, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to perform to the highest standards. So what you tend to do is you tend to go for somewhere in the middle, and they're more than likely to want to work much harder for you. They have a great attitude and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of share a little bit, some tips there, especially if you are an entrepreneur. If you are running a conventional business, I'm going to share some of the key. I'm going to share 10 main tips about how you can recruit and retain A players in your business and your company. So what I was going to say, and interestingly enough, okay, when it comes to recruiting potential clients, okay, or candidates, whatever you prefer to call it, is that a high salary isn't going to make you recruit or retain A players in your company. It helps a little bit, but actually, according to a lot of research, stats, and statistics from people like Gallup, for example, what they have found is that from a human psychology perspective, is that in the generation that we're in right now, is that people are looking for other things. They want to be part of something bigger and better. And I want to go into this a little bit more, if I may. The other thing I wanted to say to you as well is that when you are interviewing potential clients, or you are looking to grow your business and leveraging, don't worry too much about people's qualifications. All right. Qualifications is a little bit of a bonus. And if you are in a specialized profession, say it be a lawyer or you're an accountant or whatever it is, yes, of course, qualifications are important. However, what the most important thing is, there's two things that's important. Number one is attitude. You cannot teach someone with a great attitude. If you've got someone that has a bad attitude, then guess what? They're going to infect your culture with a more toxicity culture. And you don't want any toxic employees in your business. All right. Stay away from that. So that's the first thing is making sure they've got a great attitude. All right. And number two, from my perspective, it isn't just attitude that I'm looking for. I'm looking for optimism. I want to employ someone who has a high level of optimism. Okay. Because you don't want someone who is negative, is that they're going to bring the team down, that they're not going to add any value. They're going to bring problems and bottlenecks and challenges. You want someone that is optimistic in whatever, like, for example, and this is a great way. I was actually doing some work with a firm, and they found it particularly difficult to recruit really good candidates. And when they did the interview process, I was like, do you test them for their optimism? And I was like, what do you mean? So I gave them a questionnaire that they could use as a template, and it had specific questions based on their optimism. So if we look at COVID, for example, right? Just prior to COVID, for example, if there was a big, massive virus that came, okay, and we was forced to work from home, and it had this, and it caused stress, and it caused this and this and this, how would you react? Okay. And what you're looking to do is you're looking to test for people's optimism. So if something is worst case scenario, best case scenario, and the most likely outcome, what is going to be their reaction? Really important to understand. So let's get into how your company can effectively recruit and retain A players. I want to start off by, so number one is all about leadership, right? So they need to know, okay? They need to know who you are, okay? They need to know who the person is that's running the company, right? Is it that their values, okay? Is it that their individual values has a commonality between their values and your values, but also more importantly, are the values being upheld in terms of the company as well, which is really, really important. So leadership is extremely important. They need to know, who they're being part of, what company are they jumping into. Number two, career growth. I mentioned the fact at the beginning that having a higher salary only has a very small amount of impact on people's engagement and, how they show up at work. But providing them with the right resources for personal development, for example, to provide them for And this is really going to help, especially from a turnover perspective. I remember working with a recruitment firm, and their big problem is that they had a huge amount of turnover. And I was like, okay, so why is it, their turnover was something like, I don't know, it was like something ridiculous. It varied over sort of a 3-year period between 70 and 80%. It was astronomical. And so it was costing them a lot of money, not just in training, but, not just in training and other costs, in time and in salaries. They would lose they'd lose their best talent. And I was like, well, why is the reason why you're doing this? And looking at sort of the company in a bit more deeper scope is, they didn't have, the foundations, as I like to call it. They didn't have the values and the mission and the vision. A lot of the employees didn't really understand. They were kind of lost. They were just turning up, and they didn't really want that. They wanted to be something. They wanted to be part of something much bigger. And once we addressed this, their turnover came astronomically down. So it was a really interesting journey, that one. Number 3, and I talked about this again, the mission and the purpose. What's the reasons why your company exists? And this is not just about making money. Yes, you're in business to make money, but that's not the main reason. Well, that's not the main why of your company. That's not the main purpose of your company. A lot of candidates want to align themselves. They want to be part of something much bigger, right? Not just if you're running a law firm, or if you're running an accounting firm, or if you're running, a professional services company, or whatever it might be. You've got to outline and have your mission and your purpose and your why, and have it published, right? Have it on your website, because it's really important is that when you interview candidates, they've got to feel like they're going to be part of something much bigger. This is for longevity, and interconnectors, but also it's got to be genuine, right? So the mission and the vision, you've got to practice this and live by that every single day. And it's got to come from the top at the end of the day. That's really, really important. Number 4, creative thinking. So as I mentioned, Gallup, which are one of the leading research authorities on employee engagement, they found that actually in the world today, that 50% of today's workforce is disengaged, which means that your employees are actually basically just turning up. Okay. And that's what I mean. It's just turning up. They're just there. Okay. They're just the soulless human being that just there to just work like a robot, I suppose. But the new generation of today, they want to be ingrained and kind of have brainstorming sessions, as an example. They want to be sold on the fact that there's going to be some sort of creative thinking and some thought processes that's going to really help them with their growth and things like that. Number 5, giving back, philanthropy and community, I suppose, causes as such. Now, what makes me really fascinated, well, it's kind of not fascinated, it's kind of more of a frustration, whereas a lot of corporate companies talk about their corporate responsibility and things like that. Now, there's so much thing as corporate responsibility, and secondly, there's companies out there that are actually doing and getting out there and making a difference. So, I know that a lot of corporate companies, for example, especially from a tax advantage perspective, make donations to charitable causes, okay, which is a win-win for the charity. But secondly, it's a tax benefit for you guys as well, depending on which country you're actually, doing business from, of course. But also getting your employees involved in charitable causes is again, a great way to bond teamwork, to build collaboration, to build an energy as well in the company as well, which is really, really important. And one of the things that we do in our company actually is that we have a number of challenges on an annual basis where we actually raise money. We pick a charity, and essentially when we do the annual challenge as such, it could be run a marathon, it could be run a triathlon, or whatever it is. A lot of companies do this, and they do it for a good cause. And again, it brings people together, it brings support, or whatever it is. And you don't have to be a marathon runner. You don't have to be the fittest person in the world. It might not necessarily have nothing to do with fitness, which is absolutely fine. There's a lot of great causes that you can, get your company to align yourself with. Number 6, problem solving. Being able to solve problems as it's great in terms of collaboration to form this kind of collaborative teamwork as such. But more importantly, problem solving is great for empowerment. If I empower you guys to problem solve for me, okay, then guess what? I'm going to feel more important. I'm going to feel like, oh, wow, you've given me this task, which is completely different to what I would normally do, or maybe relevant to what I'd currently do. However, it's going to make me feel a lot happier in what I do. I have more meaning to just coming into work and doing my regular duties as such. Number 7, professional development, personal and professional development. And this is going to pay dividends because this is an area that a lot of smaller companies neglect. All right. If you invest in your employees, it's going to pay dividends down the line. All right. And it's going to save you a hell of a lot of money. So really important to look at that area. Number 8, recognition and rewards. So you guys probably would have known the difference between, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic motivation is, praise, having a good salary, performance reviews, all of that wonderful stuff, or bonuses. But intrinsic motivation is actually one of the most important fundamentals in terms of motivating employees. And, again, this is kind of based around, the feeling that they have when they come into work. This is intrinsically, it gives them this kind of, I suppose, this passion about, when people ask them, how do you feel about your work? When they build up this intrinsic motivation, they're more motivated to do it regardless and go above and beyond what is required of them from an engagement perspective. So that's really, really important. One of the other things as well, I wanted to talk about this, is gratitude. And this is, again, part of number 8, gratitude as well. And there was a great session that we did with Adrian Gostick now in the previous sessions. And he actually shares about not only the importance of gratitude, but also how to practice gratitude in your workplaces and also, just generally as well, which I think is really, really important. Number 9, innovation. Really important to be innovative, especially in times like this. When there's an economic collapse, for example, when there's, I don't know, like what the times that we're in right now, for example, most of the companies there's a lot of companies that are folding, that are not surviving, and it's purely because they're paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. This is a time where you get together with your teams and you essentially innovate, you create new ideas, you empower them to come up with new projects that's going to help, not just add value to the company, it's going to add value to the community, it's going to add value to customers and clients. What new projects could you give some of your employees and your teams and things like that? All right. Super important. And the last one, which is number 10, which is teamwork and team building. Now, what I'm not talking about is let's go for an outdoor pursuits center and do the high ropes course. No, I'm not talking about that, guys. Yes, it can happen a little bit, but what I'm actually talking about is actually the smallest things, which is really important, such as thinking about office layout, culture. And I talk about culture a lot in the podcast and the importance of having a high performing culture and what is it that you need in order to do so. And, and like I said, the type of culture that you want to create, do you want to have, is it the fact that, your leaders are approachable? Is it the fact that, how is it that you're encouraging teamwork? What is it that you're doing to build the team? Is it that you're having regular meetings? And if you're not having regular meetings, why not? Okay. There was a financial services company that we was working with actually. And they said to me, oh, Adam, we want to bring you in. We want to bring you guys in to help drive more high performance in our business. One of the things that we explored, some of the things that they were doing and some of the things they weren't doing. And the big problem with this particular company is that they weren't consistent in what they did. So when they had a meeting, for example, and normally in my company, we would have a meeting towards the end of the week to see what we've achieved. But in a lot of companies, the meetings were inconsistent and they weren't timed. They didn't have an agenda. So that's the first thing. Secondly, is once a month we'd have what I call innovation monthlies, which essentially is a great opportunity where you basically turn off your email notifications. You go into an office or brainstorming room or whatever it is, and you get together with your teams for a couple of hours to think about how you can add more value to people's lives, and what new products and services, or what methodologies, what problems are you going to solve in the world. And we would do this once a month. And this was the same for this financial services company. They weren't doing that. And when the leaders of the company thought that their employees were engaged and they were motivated, but actually in reality, they weren't, because I had also did some interviews with some of the other employees, and they're like, yeah, they don't understand. They believe this, they believe that. And there was this kind of misalignment as such between, what the leaders thought and what the employees thought, or whatever it is. And, there's always room for improvement, guys. Really, always room for improvement. So in summary of today's call, actually, is a way to think about what is it that you need to be bringing in people that share this sense of, I suppose, purpose and belief in not just, why your company exists. They got to believe in you as a person. You've got to build these relationships. They've got to understand your mission. They've got to understand your purpose. They've got to understand their values, and they've got to believe in what you believe. All right. Because one of the, and it's another great example, actually. A good friend of mine runs a very successful company. She's been in business for about 17 years or thereabouts, but it's just her. And her business turns over a good substantial amount of money. It's a 6-figure business. I think it makes around 150,000 a year or whatever it might be. But she always complains that she never has any time and she cannot find the right talent. And I was like, okay, well, why is this? And so, because number one is that she doesn't like letting go, right? So that's a real big thing for her, because and same with a lot of our listeners that are listening in with you guys, you've got to learn to let go and empower others to do what you do. Because I understand it's kind of your baby, it's your business, and you're being protective of it. I completely understand. But one of the real reasons why a lot of businesses don't grow is because they get stuck. And this is the reasons why they get stuck, because the owner or the founder or the business, the founder itself, they don't want to let go. Yes, they want to take employees on. And this particular lady, she maybe take on someone really special who we'd see as an A player, but maybe sort of 3-4 weeks down the ladder, the relationship would break down. And it would break down because, number one, there was this element of trust that wasn't there. So that's the first thing. Secondly, she didn't want to empower, the new candidate with new tasks and whatever it is. Number three, there was this lack of training, so the other person, even though they were very well experienced and qualified, they still needed to have an element of training, and really important. And the fourth one is that the business owner and the founder themselves, they just felt it was just quicker and easier to do it themselves, right? And the big problem with that is if you find someone that is able to do some of the duties and some of the things that you do on a daily basis that take up a lot of your time, for example, and they're able to do it 80% good, okay, it means that's a good A player, all right? No one's going to be 100% perfect, all right? No one can replicate what you do, essentially. But if you've got someone in your team, which, and again, this is coming from experience. If you've got someone in your team that's underperforming, they take maybe 5 times longer than what you do it, then maybe you need to think twice about, number one, is it that, can you help them? Is it that they have a bad attitude? Is it that they need more skills? Do they need more training? Or is it the fact that they're just lazy, they procrastinate, and the fact that actually, do you know what? They actually really don't want to be there in the first place. So listen, I hope that today's Power Up Thursdays has given you a bit of an eye opener and some new insights. I certainly enjoyed today, and I've gone through a lot of great content for you guys. Listen, do me a favor. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please reach out to me on social media, either on Twitter, on YouTube, or on Facebook or LinkedIn, which is my preferred platforms. and tag me, share me, whatever it might be, or even reach out to me. The links are actually below in the podcast below. And interestingly enough, I'm going to be sharing some really, really exciting announcements in the next up and coming weeks. And make sure that you stay plugged in, because you are not going to want to miss this, especially as we go into 2021. And you guys are going to be the first to know. Okay. So I'm so super excited about that. But anyway, listen, have a great, happy Power Up Thursday. Even though you might not be listening to this on Thursdays, it's irrelevant. Listen, whatever day it is to you, whenever you're listening to this, have a great day. See you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hey, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening in to this episode of the Game Changers Experience. I hope that you got some amazing value, some great insights, and golden nuggets that you can implement into your business straight away. I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review on the button below. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.